Thanks, and I'd like to begin by thanking Bob for inviting us to give a quick update on Canada, and also the organizer, Pablo, for the great arrangements. I'm Ted Haney with Canada Beef Export Federation.
Peggy Strankman with the Canadian Cattlemen's Association.
And away we go. There we go. So the Canadian cow inventory, as well, has seen its roller coaster ride, where the lowest tends to be associated with very high feed prices, a shortage of feed, primarily due to drought in the western prairie region where our feedlots are. In 2004 and 5, you saw an increase almost to 5.5 million cows. That was a unique outcome from BSE. Cow prices were so low in Canada that producers simply held on to any cow that could produce a calf for another couple of years. Any cow that could produce a calf for a couple of years, they would hold on because prices were less than 25 cents a pound. Since then, we've been able to export live cows to the U.S. for slaughter, as well as having more markets open for cow beef, and we've seen a slow and steady decline. During 2005, 6, 7 is also when we've seen an increase in the Canadian dollar against the United States, which reduces our short-term returns to the ranching sector. So we are in and have not yet completed a major liquidation of Canadian breeding cow herd. For production, though, similarly, we've seen an increase in carcass weights. And again, carcass weights go up generally when we have cheap grain, and they go down when we generally have a very expensive grain. In the last couple of years, we've seen our production remain very stable, even though we've had a drop in the cow herd. Again, beef production also increases when you're processing cows. We will export more live cattle to the United States for slaughter, for feeding and for slaughter, when our grain prices are higher in Canada on the prairies than in the United States. And so we're expecting in this year, 2010, to bring home a significantly large grain crop, and possibly even larger when we look at potential freezing of some of the food wheat and turning it into feed wheat. Looking at our exports of live cattle, again, very much related back to slaughter and feeder cattle. And you can see in 2009 and 2010, a much smaller proportion of our total live cattle exports to the United States are in feeder because of our large competitive supply of grain. When we can feed cattle competitively in Western Canada, we keep them home, and we'll export slaughter cattle rather than feeder cattle. In 2002, we exported our historically large 1.6 million cattle to the United States. That was a severe drought, and so we had about a 3 times normal rate of export of calves and feeder cattle. And then, of course, in 2004, 0, and that was due to the ban of exporting the live cattle after diagnosis of BSE. Canadian beef imports. Canada imports between 200 and 250,000 tons of beef each year, and the largest is with our NAFTA partner, the United States. No quota restrictions, 0 tariff, wide open trade between the two countries, and we don't have a country of origin labeling restriction, which would likely restrict ability to sell more U.S. product in Canada. But Australia and New Zealand are our third largest suppliers, with Uruguay filling its quota most years as well. While we import between 200 and 250,000 tons, we export between 400 and 500,000 tons of beef products. Our industry going into 2002 had about 70% of processed beef exports to the United States. Quite frankly, our industry has a long-term goal of bringing that down to between 50 and 60% by increasing our exports to other markets. So in 2010, we'll bring it down to around 70% again, It could even be as low as 65%. Our markets in Asia are, and in Mexico are booming as well. Our exports to Russia are going up as well. So again, smaller fed cattle supplies in Canada, because of the smaller cow herd, is providing very strong support for price, particularly in the last quarter. Feeder prices are also supported by smaller supplies, and so feedlots are bidding up the calf crop high this year. We expect, unless we see a significant improvement in slaughter cattle prices, we would expect feedlots to really be challenged this year, and they may well be setting up for significant financial losses. Particularly because there is such large feedlot capacity, a lot of competition. So these feedlot operators, risk takers every day, and they're taking risks this year. Feed grade challenges and competitiveness, lots of forage. We had a lot of rain in Western Canada, and fairly large feed grain supplies, possibly very large if there's a frost on the food wheat crop as well. We'll know that within the next 2 weeks. Competing meats, pork production is down, which provides more price support for beef, and poultry in Canada is very flat, and so no real effect there at all. Just to quick roundup on trade policy, we exported to, roughly speaking, 100 markets a year prior to BSE. We now have 74 markets open. 16 markets are open to all beef products from all ages. 19 markets are open to beef derived from animals less than 30 months of age. 1 market in the world under 21 months, and 36 markets which are no formal protocol. We call them exporter risk or commercial risk markets. And only 1 market, South Korea, remains completely closed, although I will be leaving soon because there's a conference call I need to be on with our 3rd round of quiet negotiations between Canada and Korea, setting the terms of returning back to Korea.
Canada's been working on environment and animal welfare issues for about 20 years now, and I'm just going to focus on the environmental sustainability side of it. We just recently completed an environment strategy, and we identified a number of environmental issues that we felt were important to the industry. Those with high inherent risk, and I think also opportunity. Climate variability came out at the very top, and then greenhouse gas emissions. Medium inherent risk, biodiversity, is also a challenge, perhaps, and also an opportunity. Canada is a wide open country, and we've, for many years, thought that we had endless supplies of grasslands. Now that's becoming a bit of an environmental challenge to us. We are facing increasing pressures from our consumer public and also from our government regulators. And the most important issue facing the Canadian beef and cattle industry is environmental sustainability.
Something like that. Both are pretty important. Yes, thank you very much.